What's up, social media world? It's me, BP, Ben Peters, coming at you with another video. As you guys know, my channel is all about real estate investing, how to build wealth, and how to build that financial legacy. But you might be asking yourself, Ben, how do I even start? How do I go about doing that? So I wanted to create a video, a step-by-step video of how to buy your first investment property for 2023. For those of you who are new to the channel, my name is Ben Peters. I own 19 doors of real estate, a little over $3.2 million in value. So without further ado, let's jump into the video. But first, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. I'd love to hear your comments about this step-by-step method. So this channel is all about breaking down what seems like might be a complicated process, and let's make it easy for the masses to understand. I want to make a caveat about this video. These are very, very basic things that I'm going to go over step by step. I've got 7 steps that you guys can follow to buy your first investment property. Step number 1, get pre-approved. What does that mean? You go to a bank, a loan officer, a mortgage originator, or a credit union, and you talk to them and say, hey, I'm looking at buying an investment property. What can I afford? This is step 1 in the process. You might start looking at properties, but we have to get pre-approved first to know what we can afford. What is the down payment going to be? So there's 2 ways to buy your first investment property. Number 1, buying it as a primary residence. When you buy it as a primary residence, you can get a 30-year loan, maybe even a 15-year loan, but by buying it as a primary residence, the United States government allows you to buy it for a less down payment. You could potentially buy a investment property for 3.5% down, maybe even 5% down. There's even USDA programs for 0% down. But that depends on the area you're looking in, the area of the country you're in. Check with a loan officer and see, hey, if I'm buying an investment property as a primary residence, what do I qualify for? The only caveat to this is you have to live in the property. So here, it makes the most sense if you're buying a primary residence, you live in one bedroom, rent out the other bedrooms, or maybe you're buying a duplex, you live in one side, rent out the other. The second type is when you go to a loan officer and say, I am buying an investment property. If you are not living in the property, the rules change. Most loan officers will allow you to do a personal loan. You could still do a 30-year loan or a 15-year loan. I'm a big fan of 30 years, makes the cash flow a little bit better. But when you're buying it strictly as an investment property, you have to put as much as 20% down. And if you're buying a multifamily home, that would be 25% down. Now, again, those are personal loans that go into your name. You do have another option. Rather than doing a personal loan, you can do a commercial loan. Commercial loans, though, you have to do 30% down. You can't amortize it over 30 years. Most of the time, it's 20 years, 15 years, so it really crunches your cash flow. So I'm a big fan for your first 10 properties. You can put up to 10 properties in your personal name. Do personal loans before going into commercial loans. Now let's move on to step 2, find the deal. How do you find the deal? There's tons of people who will tell you, oh, there's no deals on the MLS. You have to find off MLS, and off MLS is just a tough road to go. I have found every single one of my rental properties on the MLS. For those people who are saying there's no deals on the MLS, that is totally and utterly false. You can find deals on the MLS. So before you even go out and look at properties, use the 1% rule. I have a video where I talk about evaluating each individual deal. I'll link it right here for those who haven't seen that. But you need to evaluate the deal and see if it's a good deal before you even go out and look. When you are finding the deal and you're evaluating it, use the 1% rule and find yourself a good real estate agent who can set you up with a search on the MLS. A big rule of thumb I have when I'm investing out of state or anything like that, I want to use a real estate agent who knows how to invest in real estate. They have rentals themselves. If you use a real estate agent who's never owned a rental property, they don't know what they're talking about. They might think they do, but coming from a real estate agent who owns tons of rentals, I help my clients so much more than the average real estate agent who doesn't own rental properties. So the second way you can find the deal, I mentioned it earlier, is finding deals off the MLS. That usually goes by sending out letters to people in certain neighborhoods saying, hey, I'm interested in buying your house, but there's a big cost associated with that. The second way you can do it is by talking to wholesalers. Wholesalers are people who go out, get properties under contract, way under market value, and then they keep a portion. So for easy math, They find a house for $100,000, they get it under contract for $100,000, and then they sell it to you for $120,000, and they say, hey, I'm selling you this house for $120,000. It will be worth $140,000 once you buy it. So wholesalers are people who get properties at major discounts. Usually there's something wrong with them or something like that. And then you buy still under market value. That's the second option. And then the last option that you can do to find a deal is just networking. Get yourself a real estate investing group. There's tons of networking groups. Just find one on Facebook. When you are friends with people who own rental properties, they also are looking at buying and selling rental properties. So that's another way you can find the deal. Number 3, evaluate the property. Like we said, we are evaluating if it's even worth looking at in person. But once we find a house that we really, really like, we go out to the property and we evaluate it. Here's the 5 things that I look for when walking through a house. I look at the windows, I look at the roof, I look at the furnace, I look at the air conditioning system, and I look at the water heater. Why are those 5 things I am looking at? Everything else in a property, like flooring, like paint color, like remodeling bathrooms, that kind of thing, that gains equity. All the 5 things that I mentioned, none of those gain equity. I experience some sellers that say, hey, I just put in a new furnace. It cost me $10,000, so my house should be worth $10,000 more, right? Absolutely not. Especially in Minnesota, you are expected to have a working heating system. So those are 5 things that if you move in and you have to replace those 5 things, or you buy this investment property and you have to replace one of those 5 things in the first 5 years, you're not gaining any equity from that. If I can find a property that has 4 of those 5 things, maybe the water heater's old. Well, the water heater doesn't cost all that much. But if the windows, the roof, the furnace and AC, all those are new, I'm probably going to offer on that property. But if I walk through a property and 3 of those things are bad, like roof, windows, and furnace, those are 3 big price items that are probably going to have to be replaced in the first 5 years, and none of those gain any equity whatsoever. Step number 4, put in an offer. This is the misconception in real estate. I have offered on tons and tons and tons of properties. I would venture to say over 100 offers to get those 7 properties. So just know that it may take a few offers, and if you don't get your offers accepted, that's okay. There are more fish in the sea. What's another important part of putting in offers? I'm going to stress this. I talked about this earlier in the video, but get a realtor who knows your market. Get a realtor who knows investment properties. For instance, I do about 10x what the average agent does in my market. And because of that, I have experience. I know how to negotiate. I know what sellers are looking for. I know what they're not looking for. So I know how to structure offers to make my clients offer over and above the average offer. So make sure you get a realtor who knows what they're talking about to help you put in the best offer, put your best foot forward. One last thing to note, make sure your realtor knows this. If you're using somebody who's not familiar with rentals, is to put in the offer that rents go to you on the day of closing. Okay, it might have to be prorated, but also security deposits transfer over. I've made the mistake in the past where security deposits don't transfer over, and once you close on the house and the renter moves out, they want their security deposit back, you realize you don't have it, you got to go back to the previous seller. It's an absolute nightmare. So make sure you get those deposited to you when you make an offer. Step number 5, get an accepted offer. So you've put out tons and tons of offers. Now it's time to get one accepted. First step, once you get an accepted offer, is to do an inspection. I am a big advocate. Always do an inspection on a property, especially if you're buying multifamily. You don't know, you might have 3 really good units, but if you're buying a quadplex and 1 unit is complete trash, there's water issues, there's mold, maybe there's structural issues, you want to know that. So especially as a first-time investor, if you're watching this and you're like, I want to buy my first investment property, make sure you get an inspection on the property. If your realtor is advising you, or you have a crazy market where everything's selling, and we've been in this for the past year or so, where everything's selling way above list price, people are waiving inspections, don't waive inspections. If you have a realtor who's saying the only way to get an accepted offer is to waive inspection, run. There are other ways to get your offer accepted besides waiving inspection. Now, I will say there is a caveat to this rule. I am of the belief if you're buying a property that is within 10 years old, really there's not a ton for it to go wrong. And so if you're buying a property, maybe it was built in 2016 and it's 2023, your realtor is saying, hey, you should maybe waive inspection. Well, the furnace, the water heater, the roof, we know at bare minimum, just 7 years old, those aren't that big a deal. So unless it's 10 years or less, or you're buying a townhouse. There are some people who tell you, do not buy a townhouse. It's really hard to cash flow, yada, yada, yada. I think that's false. There's tons of great townhouses out there. But the great thing about townhouses is the HOA takes care of the roof, takes care of the siding, takes care of everything outside. Sometimes even they take care of structural issues. And so if you're buying a townhouse, and I would maybe say 1990s or newer, in that case, an inspection isn't as big of a deal as long as you know what you're getting yourself into. Hey, furnace is original. Townhouse was built in 1990. Okay, well, it's about 23 years old. Gonna go anytime now. So those are caveats to the rule. So when you accept the offer and you're doing your inspection, that becomes a renegotiation. So let's say you do the inspection and you find, hey, there's $3,000 worth of items that need to be addressed. Maybe the water heater doesn't work. Maybe the furnace doesn't work. Something like that. You can go back to the sellers and you say, the furnace doesn't work. I was expecting it to be in working condition. It's unsafe. I need that to be replaced prior to closing. And it becomes a renegotiation. So that's the best part of the inspection period. You can do renegotiations during the inspection period. So make sure you get that inspection period. Make sure you get a good inspector who knows what they're talking about, and make sure you get a good realtor who knows how to renegotiate for you. Step number 6. Now, once you get past inspection, you are in pending status. Now, there's a lot of things that happen in pending status. I'm not here to talk about all that, but what I do want to talk about is when you get into pending status, your loan officer, your banker, your credit union is going to reach out to you and say, hey, I need these tax returns. I need this. I need the leases on the property, everything like that. Make sure you get all those things to your loan officer in as quick of time frame as possible. We don't want to stretch out closing, because if you miss your closing date in pending status, a lot of times sellers will say, well, we want you to pay for that, or yada, yada, yada. We want to make sure that we're closing on time. And that starts with you getting into pending status and getting everything to the loan officer as soon as they ask for it. The second thing that you do while you're in pending status is set up property management. So I'm a big advocate of managing your own rental properties up until you have about 10 or so, up until you have about 10 doors, because I am of the belief you need to know how to manage a property in order to interview a good property manager. If you're managing the property yourself, make sure you set up all those systems. I've shown in previous videos, Zillow is a great place. As a realtor, I hate Zillow, but as a real estate investor, I absolutely love Zillow because they have property management software for basically for free. You can collect rent, you can sign leases, you can accept applications. They have a great free tool. Now, if you want a little bit more robust, I just switched to Turbo Tenant. Turbo Tenant is a great thing. It does cost a little bit. You can check them out. I'll put a link in my description just in case you want to take a look. I think it's something like $5 a month, $10 a month. It's super, super cheap, and it really takes a lot of the guesswork. Your tenants can put in maintenance requests. You can accept applications. You can advertise online. There's a lot of really cool things with Turbo Tenant. Also, another free one that I've used in the past is Stessa. Again, I'll put links for all this in the description below in case you want to check these out if you're managing your own portfolio. Let's say you say, Ben, I have zero time. I cannot spend time managing my own property. Okay, all right, I'll give you that. Now you need to find a property manager. When you are in pending status, so once you accept an offer to closing, it's typically 30 days. So you want to make sure you have found a good property manager and know how to onboard them before your close date. Because once you close, that tenant needs to start paying rent to somebody. And if you don't have a property manager lined up, that can result in lost rent. That can result in lost money. You miss your mortgage payment. It can be all bad. So make sure you are setting up that property manager minimum 15 days in advance of closing. But more than likely, while you're looking for properties, you're looking for a good property manager and interviewing those. Step number 7, let's talk about the last step in the process. This is closing. So once you've went into pending status, you now go to closing. Again, from offer to closing, minimum of about 30 days, and you go to closing, you're gonna sign your name about 1,000 times saying, yep, I'm gonna buy the house, yep, I'm gonna pay a mortgage, I am liable, all that kind of stuff. And then you walk away from that closing table, the house is yours. You can start getting rent every single month. Big thing that I always do during my closings, I always take pictures. Always take pictures. I like doing hashtag sold sign selfie. You can check me out on Instagram. I was the very first realtor in the nation to use the hashtag sold sign selfies. I like to take a picture of me in front of my house with a sold sign. I started doing it with my clients, and then I started doing it with my investments. Take a picture, because here's the thing. If you're going to build your legacy, if you're going to build your wealth, you want to have the memories. Hey, this was my first investment property. Hey, this was my second investment property. It really makes it fun to go look at your progress and be like, man, look at what I've accomplished in these few short years. And the second thing that you do when you close on a property, you go, you take the pictures, you do your final walkthrough, you close on the property. Now you start collecting rent. This is what I love about residential real estate investing, multifamily investing. People's biggest expense in their life is typically housing. And when I own an investment property, their biggest expense in their life, that is a check that is going to me every single month. I absolutely love this. I absolutely love this business model. And so when you close on your first investment property, you are going to get rent on that unit, whether that be 1 unit, whether that be 2 units, 3, 4, whatever. You are going to collect that rent for the rest of your life. And that's how you create a legacy, create wealth that you can pass on from generation to generation. So with all that being said, there's the video. Hopefully that makes sense. 7 steps how to buy your first investment property. Thank you so much for watching. For those of you who are watching who are saying, hey, I'd really like to buy a property, but this just is very surface level. I'd like to do more due diligence. I actually created a real estate investing course. I've usually sold it for $500, but because I'm a brand new channel, I'm gonna give away 5 courses for free. I'm gonna put the coupon code and the website address in the bio below or in the description below. And so the first 5 people to claim that coupon code, you can get the course for free. And this course will deep dive. On YouTube, it's really hard to deep dive. I've only got a few minutes to make this video, but this has hours and hours and hours of all my tips, all my tricks, what I've learned over my course of 7 years of investing in real estate, and you guys can get it for free. So the link is in the description, and please, if you haven't, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'd love to help you out however I can. Hopefully you got some value from this video. Thank you so much for watching. Stay vertical.